All right. Hello, sixth graders. I hope today is going well for you all. Today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be reviewing Tales from the Odyssey. You guys had a chance to read that through yesterday. Again, it is the beginning of Odysseus's journey back home from the Trojan War. And this is only just part of the story. So, as you get older, like I said yesterday, you will probably read different versions of this story many times in English as you get older. So, today's agenda, hopefully, you had a chance to fill out your bell ringer question. Then, what we're going to be doing today is the big skill that you are learning with the story is determining the theme, or what is the lesson that is being learned through the story, or the moral. So in order to determine that, we have to review story plot. So that is what we're going to be focusing on today, so that we can focus on the theme of the story tomorrow. So if you remember story plot, think of that mountain that we went over many times already so far this year in the classroom. So you have to think of, at the beginning of the story, how is the story starting out? What is it that we find out? Do you remember what that is called? Think of my expo marker. Hopefully you were able to come up with exposition. So remember that the exposition is where they're telling us the theme, not the theme, the setting of the story. Where is the story taking place? And who are the main characters? Then as I continue to walk along my storyline there, we get to right before it goes upward. And what am I finding out in that part of the story? So at the beginning of the story, after the setting, we usually find out the conflict. So what is happening with the story? Then as I start going up my mountain, as we travel on with our little guy here on that mountain, our next part of the story plot is remember, it's all of the events that are building on each other. Hopefully you're able to come up with rising action. So it is the rising action. It's kind of what is leading up then to the very, 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 very top of the mountain, which is the most exciting part. Think of the movie, it's kind of what's been building, and all of a sudden you get to this big old probably fight if it's an action film, or if it's a girly more type movie, it's kind of the turning point, or where they come to some big realization. So it's going to be the climax or the turning point. And then as they start heading down the mountain is where you start wrapping up that problem. And it is, since you're going down the mountain, it's not the rising action, but the, hopefully you said falling action. And then at the bottom, we have, it is they are solving the problem. So it's not exactly the solution that is the name. So the solution to the problem is the resolution. And then we also talk about theme. So here's just a better idea of what that looks like. So just remember that we have our exposition. So who are the main characters at the beginning of the story? What is the setting? Then the next part is the conflict. So what is the major problem of the story? Rising action. What events happen after the exposition? And the climax is, when does the main character face their problem? This is the turning part of the story, and things will never be the same for the character. What is the falling action? So what happens immediately after the climax to wrap it up? And then the last part there is the resolution. So what happens at the very end of the story that solves that problem? So what you are going to be doing today is you are going to be creating your own story plot. You'll be filling out a story plot based on what you read yesterday. So just a reminder that you can look back in the story for details. You do not have to do this from memory. I encourage you to use the story and to not do this by memory. Okay? You read the story, the book is there. Please use it. So in Google Classroom, you will have noticed that there's also a link to a Google Draw. So what you are going to be doing is, if you double click on the text box, you can then write in your answer. So what is the exposition? Where is the story taking place and who are the main characters of the story you read yesterday? Now, if you need to make the text boxes bigger, you are more than welcome to. Things like that. And then what is the conflict? What are the Odysseus and his men facing? Now, when it comes to the climax, determine the climax. A lot of times it's easier to determine that first, to think of how do they go from the conflict to the most exciting part, and then going back and filling in that rising action. So what happens then from the conflict to that most exciting part or that turning point? And then the last part will be that falling action, kind of what's happening before they solve the problem. So kind of what happens right at the end. Then tomorrow we're going to be using this information to determine the theme or the moral or the lesson of the story. Now, if you need to, you can go back in this video and pause it on this diagram if you need some help with remembering what goes in each part. So again, you can use the different parts of the story. Please use the story to help you. You don't have to do this from memory. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.